Jen from Fabulous Paper Emporium. Welcome to my channel. Everybody who's returning, I really appreciate your support. If you are new to our channel, I come to you every week with a new paper craft, whether that's a card, an album, a mini album, a folio. Sometimes I'll throw in some scrapbook layouts, but typically the area, my milieu, if you will, is really cards and albums and things of that nature. So today we have a card style. It's the triple tiered card, and I've seen this made a few times. It's my first time making it, so I'm bringing it to you. And of course, feel like I've been in this woodland friend zone for quite a while now. So this is probably, I say probably, but you never know. It may be the last time I use it, at least for the foreseeable future. I've got a lot of new collections that are in store right now, and really want to start using them. So we are using some more, like I said, of the Graphic 45 Woodland Friends. This is the 3-tiered card. As you can see at the top, you see that there are different tiers. So as you pull, you have the tiers that appear. And you can use stamping, you can use beautiful designer paper if you want. There's also space on the back if you wanted to decorate the back as well as the front. You can certainly do that. I left some space at the very top. That's where I would put my sentiment. But of course, if you wanted to have, you know, maybe some cute little designer paper on all of the tiers, then your message could always go back here. You would just need another piece of, you know, cardstock that you could write on. And we'll get to that, like now. So I'm going to put this back, set this aside, and we'll go through all of the measurements. So I'm going to start with this like olivey green base. That's what I've chosen. I'm using some more, like I said, of the Woodland Friends. Okay, so for the base, we are going to need a large piece. So I kind of changed this up, and before I go too far into the video, I originally saw this from Dawn's Stampin' Thoughts. She's I think a Stampin' Up demonstrator in the US. Anyways, that's where I saw this video. I changed the measurements just slightly. And the reason for that is because the cardstock that I wanted to use is 8.5 by 11. And initially this base was going to be 11 5/8. And I just don't have a 12 by 12 cardstock that I wanted to use today. So kind of rigged the paper to be a different size so that I could use the paper that I wanted. So it's very flexible in that way. So these, for this particular project, you only need to have 8.5 by 11 paper. You do need to have 2 sheets of this base color. So to start, this base is going to be 10 7/8 by 4.5. Then we need 1 piece that is going to be 9 3/4 by 3.25. We have 1 square, oops, that is 3 by 3. And then just from the scraps we need, because nobody's going to see these. So even if it doesn't match the color of your base, don't worry. These are just 1/2 inch pieces that are 3.5 inches long by 1/2 inch. And these can be, like I said, whatever color. The only thing is that if this is going to be a lighter color, I don't know if you'd see it through cardstock. You may want to go light on these as well. Like I wouldn't do black and then have this be white, just in case you can see it. So that's it for the base. Then for this ivory color, which I've done as my first layer, we're going to need 1 piece that is 3 3/8 by 4.25. We need 1 piece that is 3 by 2 3/4. And the last piece is going to be 2 3/4 by 2 1/4. Okay, and now these pieces, the only piece that really needs to be the full size is the one on the front. You'll see that there's a lot of how do I say this? There's quite a bit that goes underneath, so I've tried to make the measurements so that we're not really wasting a lot of the cardstock that's not going to be seen. So just so you know. And then for the designer paper, I'm cutting 2 pieces. So the first piece is going to be on the front. So that's where I use this lovely squirrel image. This one is 3 1/8 by 4. And then for the second piece, I've chosen another one that's 2 3/4 by 2 1/2. And then for the top, like I did for here, it's just a little strip. So I just chose, actually I've got this one set aside for the one that I'm making right now. And so if you had wanted to do a full page of another designer paper, then you would keep that at, let's see, that third one would be 2 1/2 by, just trying to say here, 2 1/2 by 2 by, yeah, 2 1/2 by 2. Sorry, doing some simple math in my head right now and it was just not working out. So 2 1/2 by 2 for that top one if you wanted to cover it the entire way and have the back as your sentiment. So if you were doing the back as your sentiment, then you're going to need 2 pieces that are of the larger one. So this one was 3 3/8 by 4 1/4. So you're going to need a second piece to go back here, and that way you can have a lovely nice sentiment or stamping or whatever you'd like. So that is it for the measurements. We have some scoring to do on the base pieces. So you can set aside the 3 by 3 bugs. Like literally today is like the first really nice warm day and all of a sudden there's all kinds of bugs now. Like, come on, give me a break. We can't just have one day that's nice and sunny and so springy and yeah, without having bugs. I feel like they go hand in hand. So with your largest piece, so this is a piece that's 10 7/8 by 4 1/2. We are going to score this at 3 5/8. Okay, so just 3 5/8. We're going to set that aside. And then you're going to grab your next largest piece, and this one's the 9 3/4 by 3 1/4. And we're going to be scoring this at 3 1/4. Okay, so I don't need my scoreboard anymore, but so I'm going to fold on the score line. So I'm just making sure that everything lines up, and I'm going to just grab this really quickly because I have it handy. And then to simply make your next fold, I'm just going to fold this in. This was such a handy tip when I was watching Dawn's video. To do that, you want to make sure that this end, right, is snug right in there. I'm just making sure that it all lines up and is square and flush. Like that. Okay, sorry. Without sticking my head in the middle or in view. I'm just going to burnish that. So then we have a nice piece that folds in nicely. And we're going to do the exact same thing with the largest piece. So I'm folding in, making sure that's all aligned. Burnish that score mark, and then we're going to come back and we're going to fold that in on itself, making sure that it's all aligned, and then just press down, and then we can burnish the other fold. Perfect. So now we've got two kind of tri-folds, I guess, for lack of a better word. We will need to quickly bring out our paper trimmer. So for this type of trimming, the one we're going to do now, we're going to do 2 slits, and that's going to create the mechanism that's going to allow us to slide it up and down. So we're going to take our small one first, and this fold right here, we're going to align that with the 1-inch mark right on the, I shouldn't say right, to the left of your scoring blade. So I'm putting that all the way to the top. And then with your scoring blade, we're going to cut from a 1/4 inch, which is right here, all the way down to 2.5. I'm going to sink my blade in kind of like in the middle. So this way I can push up. And on this one, this bubble part that is usually where you would grip it, I'm lining that up with this, what's it called? This ruler. So I'm going from 1/4 at the top. I'm going to go all the way down to 2.5 down here. So that gives me a nice little cut like so. And then I'm going to go align this edge right here. I'm aligning it to the 1-inch mark on the right-hand side of my cutting blade. So on this side, and I'm going to repeat the same thing. So I'm going to go from 1/4, and I'm going all the way down to 2.5. Give me one quick second. Okay, so now you have 2 nice matching cuts, and we're doing something very similar with the larger piece. So with the larger piece, again, we're going to take this fold, and we're going to line it up to our 1-inch on the left-hand side. And this time we are going to cut between 1/2 inch at the top, and we're going to go all the way down to 3-inch. So I'm going to go up to my 1/2 inch mark, down to my 3-inch. And then we are going to move this over, and this way our far right-hand side is now lined up to the 1-inch mark, and we are going to repeat. So up to 1/2 inch. I'm trying not to yell because I'm right next to the microphone. And so this way we have 2 nice cuts. Okay, so we can set our paper trimmer aside, and we are going to grab our 1/2 inch by 3.5 inch little strips. So with the pieces folded so that the flaps come upwards, we're just going to weave this like so. Okay, so we are going to do that. So now I have my 1-inch piece, or my 1/2 inch piece. So you can see now it's going to slide up and down. I'm going to turn that over really quickly, and I'm going to fold these in. Now you don't want to fold super, super tight, but you want it snug enough that it's not going to be kind of like all loosey-goosey. And I'll show you what I mean is when I was doing this one, my top one, like they're going to be a little bit loose, but I felt like my top one was really kind of loosey-goosey. So just, you want it kind of somewhat secure. We're not gluing these pieces down, and it works completely fine because everything is holding it in. And then we're going to repeat and do the same thing with this one. So just weave that in, and then we're going to tuck these 2 pieces on either side and fold them over. So they're nice and snug. They're not super, super tight, because you still want to be able to have this travel up and down, like so. Okay, so we are going to now layer up. And the reason being is I found it a little bit challenging to apply my paper after it was all assembled. So I figured the smarter thing would be to apply all my layers before I start doing all my folding. And that way you don't have to worry about like tucking it in and getting glue all over the place. And you know how it is. So I just realized I forgot to ink my edges. I'm just going to do it on the top designer paper. Oh, you know what? I really didn't need to do the bottom on that one because nobody's going to see it. And so inking the edges just gets rid of the white core that's on most designer papers. You'll have some solids that will be like that too. And if you do have solids that have white core and you want to get rid of it, you can either use something like I'm using, which is the Vintage Photo. That's the Distress Oxides. And that way it just gives it a really nice kind of antique finish. Or if you have something, an ink that is the same color or similar color that you can get away with, then by all means you can use that too. On this card, I actually distressed the ivory as well. I'm not going to do that this time, so my ivory is going to look very ivory. And yes, that was the side I was going to use. I couldn't remember which side, and I'm using, oh boy, I'm using the green. Oh my goodness. Get a grip, girl. There. Okay, so I'm just going to layer up this piece, though this is going to be my front piece. So this one we really don't have to layer before everything is put on. That's fine. That's going to be nice and easy to put on. I like to dry fit them because these are going to look a little bit strange. I mean, when I was doing my card, I'm not so worried about this bottom piece. Nobody's going to see that. So just look at the top and the left and right sides to make sure that you're lining them up properly. And don't worry so much about the bottom. I think when I was making my first card, the one that I had shown you as my sample, I had actually cut them the same height, so they were all like aligned, which looked so bizarre. But nobody's going to see it. So now it's just between you and us, you and me and you, all of us. Anywho, so moving right along. If you were wanting to do something with this one, like I said, you could always layer that one up right now as well. If you wanted to do some stamping, I would certainly suggest that you do that before applying it to the inside. And because it's just going to be a little bit challenging. Even if you're going to write something, it's still easy enough to write. So I wouldn't worry about that too much. I am going to apply my little strip. Because it doesn't necessarily run the entire length, I think I'm going to have to kind of just wing it for this one. Because if you'll notice, it just says Simply Enjoy It All, but Simply Enjoy It All doesn't cover the entire length, or width rather. So it just is going to look weird if I have it start at the beginning and then I have half of the next sentence. So I think I'm going to do my best to center it as best I can. So Simply Enjoy It All is right in the middle, and there's a little bit cut off at either end, which I can always cover. Whoops, ink. Which I can always cover up with, like, if I had some rhinestones or little flowers or something along that line, if I fussy cut it from the collection or have something in my stash, which I don't think I do, but for all intents and purposes right now, it works. Okay. So yeah, just add it right to the top like that. So that's perfect, at least for me. Okay, so now we're going to start the assembly. You know what? I just realized there was a reason why this one was like that. It's because it's got to go on here. So this is the 3x3. I am so sorry about that. Almost missed it. I don't really know why that happened, but I'm just going to chalk it up to it's been a long day. All right. So it's been a long day. It's like midday. Well, when I post the video. It's not midday now. Okay. So now we're going to bring up our, sorry, I'm just checking something. Yeah. Okay. So now I'm going to bring up our smaller of our two pieces with the little mechanism thing going on. You're going to want to use score tape for this just because it is not messy. I want to put this on some very specific areas. You can do that with your glue. It's just going to take some time for your glue to set. So it's going to take just a little bit more time for you to create the card. So just keep that in mind. And if you have a little bit of score tape or double-sided tape, that totally works. So those are the two spots, two areas that we're going to put our double-sided tape. So just on the little part of the strip that we have that's going to move up and down, just on the middle part, and then on the opposite end. So hopefully that makes sense. We are going to follow the exact same logic to our larger piece. And that's going to go like this. And then we are going to do the other side, the edge. Perfect. So those are our two pieces. With the smaller of the two pieces, we are going to pull off the little bit of score tape that we have, or double-sided tape that we have on the little mechanism part. Okay, so here is when we need to make a decision. So you're going to need to make a decision. Do you want your card to show the tears like this, or are you going to want it to all be flush? If you were going to make it all flush, you were going to have something for the recipient, some way for them to know that they've got something to pull. And that could easily be done by just doing a hole punch at the top with some twine. Or if you are wanting to do a larger hole punch, you can do a little bit out of, train going by. You can do a little bit out of some scrap that is the same color as your base. Punch a larger hole and then just have a little bit kind of coming up. So you only have one little bit coming up that you can pull. I can actually demonstrate that if I find my hole punch. Okay. So this is just a 1-inch hole punch. So I don't even really need an entire hole. So I'm just kind of lining it up. Okay, I'm just kind of lining up my paper, doing like a half, or not even a half. You can make it, no, you should make it larger than that. That was not even a half. There. Okay, so something like this, and you can easily glue it to the back or use some score tape. And that way that's the only part that's going to show. So I'm actually going to do that with just using some Barely art glue. And to make sure I've got it on the top. And it's going to be roughly in the middle, I think. That's pretty much in the middle. Well, look at that. I am shocked. Oh, well, that, after I moved it, it wasn't in the middle anymore. That's close enough. Okay. So that's how my little tab is going to look from the outside. So this time I'm going to, I've got my mechanism piece. It's pushed all the way down to the bottom. That's key because this is going to affect where this gets placed. So this time I'm going to align my top. I'm going to just turn this around so that I can align the top piece with the top of this mechanism. And then I'm just going to lay and push down. Because your score tape is down here, if you start at the top, it'll allow you some, you know, some time to look at where it is that you're positioning it. Okay, good. Gotcha. And then we're going to flip this around. And then, so you see how there's really nothing for us to do here. Certainly if you wanted to, you could, but it is fine. This is what it's going to look like ultimately, right? Your seam is at the back. We've made sure that whatever you want to have showing to the front of the card, like the recipient, is facing you when you apply it on this side. So I'm just going to release the backing. Whoopsie. Okay, so release the backing like so. We're going to fold it over once and then twice, making sure that these pieces lay down. And then we press down. Even if you wanted to put like pull or something there, if you wanted to, you could, but just know it's going to be permanent. So maybe you don't want to, I don't know. Okay, so for my second piece, so this is the second layer that we were doing. That's going to go onto this piece because this is going to be this insert. Okay. So to do that, we are going to apply our glue. Again, better to do it now than to do it once it's all assembled, because let me tell you, that was just a pain in the butt. But this is such a cute card. I feel like anything with like a mechanism where it's interactive and you get to pull or, you know, do whatever, it's so much more fun for the recipient. Okay, so that works like this. So we have our mechanism for the top layer. We are now going to attach this to our main layer, our base layer, and then that will be that. We'll have created a beautiful triple tiered card. All right, so I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm just going to move this over. So the bottom is to my left, the top is to my right. And again, I'm just going to tilt it forward so I'm not going to accidentally stick this down because the score tape is over on my left-hand side. Just making sure I can see that because everything is kind of blending into each other. And I'm just going to press that down. Okay, and then that folds over again. I forgot to get rid of the backing, the adhesive backing, and then we fold that over. Okay, the last thing for us to do, and you may want to double check, right? So the last thing for us to do on this card is to apply our very bottom layer. So this card is quite allows for a lot of layers, a lot of options. It you know, it's maybe a little bit thicker than your average card, obviously, because we've got some layers, but it does, once you pull it out, if you kind of like give it a bit of a squeeze. I did have mine standing up earlier. Oh, this one doesn't want to seem to stand up, and I don't know why. Let's see if you kind of squeeze it like that a little bit. Nope, it's not standing. Oh, I promise I had it standing. Maybe not with all the layers. Maybe that's what it is. Yeah, it's not standing. But that's okay. Maybe if I'm a little bit more... No. But that's okay. It'll lean up against something very nicely. I don't know why I thought I could stand it up. It does end up being quite tall, but once it's all nicely compact, you know, and now that you don't see the layers on this one, I don't know what my preference is, honestly. I did like the idea of the layers. If you were going to decorate this maybe like a birthday cake, you would have obviously some candles, that kind of thing. That might be super fun. But these are kind of the two ways to create this. If you want them to stand up when you're applying your layers, you're just going to have them a little bit over to the top, showing the little top, the top part. So that's the only difference there. So hopefully you have enjoyed this tutorial. I know I've had a fabulous time. And if you have any comments, if you have any questions, feel free to post them down below. I have links to any of the paper products or any of the goods that you've seen me use. If they're available in our store, you can click the link and have a look-see. And hopefully, if you're not a subscriber, hopefully you're going to consider subscribing. I have had a wealth of love this last few weeks, and I really appreciate that. And we're working our way to 1,000. And once we hit 1,000, we're going to do a giveaway, and that'll be super exciting. And obviously, I'm very excited because I'm talking really fast. So thank you again for joining me today. Hopefully you have a fabulous rest of your day and you stay safe and well. Bye.